Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am so grateful to be with you here in our beautiful church and in the virtual spaces we are sharing together, also very beautiful. Long ago, in the 1970s, my UU fellowship participated in a Thanksgiving Seder, or kind of ceremonial meal with storytelling, based on American history. Not the history I was taught at school, with happy Indian tribes sharing food with the Pilgrims. Not the U.S. history with kindly slaveholders. Not the U.S. history with a triumphant pioneer march west to possess and civilize the land. Our Seder script painted the grief as well as the joys of our shared North American history. We ate the ceremonial foods together that included stories of pain, of displacement, of violence, and oppression in our U.S. history. Bitter herbs for the pain of enslaved peoples, the genocide against the tribes, the destruction of the earth. That made sense to me then as a teenager, and now. We didn't call it Thanxgrieving back in the 70s, but it was that. As we head towards the many holidays celebrated at the end of the calendar year, our calendar year, in the darkest time of our year in this hemisphere, including Thanksgiving next week, we may all be thinking of changes. I, for one, always tell myself I will not complain about always chopping the onions. I will not complain about making the exact same stuffing every year. I will be kinder because life is short, so short. There may be changes that life has forced upon us this season. Perhaps there are fewer people at your table this year or in your loved ones' tables. Maybe your economic situation is worse this year. Gratitude. Gratitude is beautiful and strong, and we do have so much to be thankful for. Perhaps gratitude can be made richer and more profound by also holding some grief. Grief for our own losses, grief for the pain and violence of our country's history, grief for the world's history. People, we are still here. The stories are still unfolding. Come now, let us worship together.
Good morning. And salam alaikum. Now, I realize I don't think I've ever taught us all the response to salam alaikum, which is the traditional greeting wishing peace upon someone. So I thought maybe we might learn that today and practice it in some future weeks. So salam alaikum is responded with alaikum assalam. So you're going to alaikum assalam. So salam alaikum. So in this greeting, it's a beautiful greeting. I think it's, hello, kind of doesn't have a whole lot of meaning, but wishing each other peace is such a beautiful thing to do. So in that spirit of peace, we begin our service this morning honoring Thanksgiving and Thanksgrieving. I'm the Reverend Jeremiah Lal Shahbaz Kalendae, and I serve this stunning, amazing, extraordinary congregation as its developmental minister. In the spirit of gratitude, I am joined this morning by our extraordinary worship team, music director Sonder Choi, and worship associate Chela Metzger, and our beloved musicians, Chloe and Javon, Kian, David, maybe not everybody's here today, but we'll honor them anyways, Ryan and Rima, our tech team in the back, Mia and Aubrey, and Liz and Pam, who are, I think, in the clouds helping us. Our Time for All Ages leader, Beth Brownlee, our ushers and greeters, Siobhan, Barbara G., Barbara K., and Ned, and our sexton, Ted, as well as our family, ministry, and our coffee hour teams. We are all glad to be joining you for this morning's service. If this is your first time joining us or you're still new to our congregation, we bid you a special welcome too. And we hope you'll take the time to explore our beautiful new website and online news magazine to learn more about our church and perhaps meet with folks after the service at our visitor table in the courtyard. We light our chalice this morning with "For What Shall We Give Thanks" by Laura Horton Ludwig. The wheel of the year has turned again. Once more, the Thanksgiving season has arrived. How shall we sing our song of gratitude now? For what shall we give thanks? For this moment, for friends near and far, for our breath, for love, for courage and clarity, for strength, for delight, for laughter, for beauty, for the tables round which we gather, for the food we enjoy with friends, seasoned with love and memory, for the sun and moon and stars in the sky, for the trees who have seen so much and still stand proud, stretching themselves to the sky, for the bright voices of children and the wisdom of elders, for actions that bless the world, for hard work that makes a difference, for music and art and celebration, for generosity, for compassion, for endurance, for joy, for hope. For all these things, we give thanks as we worship together.
Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. My name is Chela Metzger, your worship associate for today. I'm part of a team, as Jeremiah kindly pointed out, who will bring you this service in person and online. We are so glad to have all of you with us, wherever you are, here in the sanctuary or in our online sanctuary, from communities across the LA Basin and around the United States. If you're new to our community, and even if you've been here for years, check out our new website for all kinds of information and ways to be involved. And if you are here in person, check out the info on our tables and talk to volunteers for ways to join us and ways to learn more about our faith. Please know that we are gathering safely and slightly differently these days, and also holding many meetings and small group gatherings online. We offer programs to serve the needs of our congregation and to be of service to the larger world, including broad religious exploration and personal development for people of all ages. We also join with many justice advocates to work together for justice and harmony in our world. Unitarian Universalism is not defined by creed or by dogma, but is guided by principles that affirm the worth and dignity of every person. They also encourage an individual search for truth and for meaning. We honor the wonder of existence and believe we are all connected to each other and to the interdependent webs of life. Our beliefs are drawn from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience, and ancient traditions. We are an open, affirming, and welcoming congregation, diverse in backgrounds, identities, spiritualities, and philosophies of life. We are united in our desire to create an inclusive, beloved community, to live the principles of our faith, and to serve the wider world. Whatever your beliefs or faith tradition, we invite you to help us build a community where together in our diversity we may covenant in love and justice. May you find comfort, camaraderie, and inspiration here. As we gather in this space and in our virtual spaces, we recognize that we are all connected through the winds that give air to all beings, through the waters that move deep into our earth and up to the sky. We acknowledge that the ground beneath our feet is the traditional home of indigenous peoples, many who have been forcibly removed to other lands. I do have a few announcements this morning. I just want to give a shout out to the choir. I was here Friday night. What an amazing performance that was. Really wonderful to see the principles of our faith in music like that. It's an extraordinary part of our church. And today, after church at 1 o'clock, we're going to have an outdoor Thanksgiving gathering. So see you there, people. I brought a pie, just saying. We are closer to our goal of $50,000 to match the grant that we've been awarded for the repair of our Arizona lobby. That's the construction out there. Because of that construction, the only bathrooms available right now are in the back of the sanctuary and to the left, or outside in the cottage. But furthermore, we would love to have a little money to help finish that construction, so look for different ways to donate. You can donate by text using the SLF code. You can donate online. You can write a check. Talk to any of us about how to do that. We certainly accept money through the U.S. mail and all kinds of other ways. Next order of business is, are you concerned about the youth in our congregation? Are you involved in Young Religious Education, or YRE? Have you been involved? Our consulting minister would like to hear from you. Reverend Kikanza is working with the YRE team to cast a vision for religious education for the youth of our community. What part of that process is to hear the stories about what has worked and what has not worked in the past. What do you remember? What has been important to you? What concerns you? What do you see as the future of youth religious education? Please come to a meeting with Reverend Kikanza Nuri Robbins in person or by Zoom to speak in a group or one-on-one. Watch for dates and sign up to talk. Religious education for our youth is everyone's responsibility. There will be opportunities to talk to Reverend Kikanza November 23rd, December 4th, and December 5th. Check the website, look for links, and please try to participate. You know, we do our lunches for bunches every Sunday after church. We could use some more money for that. $3 will actually go a long ways. More would go even further. So please think about supporting our hunger fund. You can do it through Zelle, through administration at UUSM.org, with the description Lunches for Bunches. Look for ways on our website. You can text the amount with the code HFC, and thank you. Finally, I'm going to ask again, as I did a couple of weeks ago, have you ever enjoyed a cup of coffee or a snack after the service? Raise your hand up high. I see a lot of hands. We really do need a bigger group of volunteers to help share the blessings of coffee. So we're looking for folks to host coffee. Please talk to Linda Van Lignan, Eileen McCormack, or our president. You can email president@uusm.org. Thanks to all of you who have been helping and those of you who will help in the future. So that's ending the announcements. Please rise in body or in spirit for the opening hymn, number 349, and then remain standing for our covenant and our hymn of praise. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en la libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Así es como convenimos unos a otros. If you have a donation for the West Side Food Bank, we ask you bring it forward and place it in the basket in the front at this time. We have been partners in collecting food for the West Side Food Bank for many years. If you'd like to donate food, please bring items that they need in large quantities like pasta, pasta sauce, juice, granola bars, protein bars, and breakfast cereals. Our service to the world can be embodied right here each Sunday. All people, young and old, are encouraged to give. We will receive this morning's offerings for the West Side Food Bank now. And I would like to invite Beth to come up and talk about our youth ministry and a little video we're about to show. So Beth, welcome. Yep.
Good morning. All month long, we are learning about our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and its partnerships with grassroots organizations working locally across the globe to address injustices in their communities. The Guest at Your Table program brings together UUs of all ages across the country and around the world during the holiday season to raise money for UUSC partners like Yohit, a young man from Helsinki, Hungarian committee who provides support to people seeking asylum from Hungary. By supporting the UUSC's Guest at Your Table program, we support Johit. We lift up his story, and we're going to show a video about him. And we make it possible for young people like Johit, half a world away, to create refuge for people feeling violence and oppression in other countries. After the service, you'll have the opportunity to meet other guests out on the patio. We have flyers about the UUSC guests and the kinds of projects you'll be supporting when you participate in the program. You can also pick up a Guest at Your Table box that you can take home and put on your dinner table. Every time you have dinner, right on through the holiday season, you're invited to think about the guests at your table and drop some money into the box. Whether it's $1, a meal, or $20, your donation, your mindful consideration of neighbors working for change will make a difference. We collect the boxes after the holidays and share the donations with the UUSC committee in the new year. Thank you. And here we have the video.
So my name is Lal Shahbaz, and I'm a senior legal officer of the Hungarian Helsinki Committee. I work in the refugee program. And the Hungarian Helsinki Committee is the largest and oldest organization in Hungary, and in fact the only organization in Hungary which provides legal assistance and representation for asylum seekers and refugees who come seeking Hungary's help in providing them with refuge when they fear persecution, serious harm, war, or other atrocities against human rights. And we provide in-person and individualized counseling and legal representation for asylum seekers and migrants. And with regard to the war in Ukraine now, the Hungarian Helsinki Committee is also, of course, in the forefront of the response. We work together closely with UNHCR, which we have been cooperating with for the past 20 plus years. We are the implementing partner of UNHCR in Hungary. We conducted nearly 60 monitoring visits at this point to a number of facilities all over the country, provided nearly 6,000 individuals with legal counseling, with information. We train professionals and volunteers, first responders, and provide information which is key to those who seek our help. The war in Ukraine was quite transformative for a number of reasons. I mean, first, there is a war right next door in a neighboring country, which really changed the dynamic and the social composition of the people fleeing to Hungary. Hungary became a first country of arrival for people fleeing directly from a war-torn country. Before that, the vast majority of asylum seekers coming to Hungary did not come directly from one of the neighboring countries. So the social composition of the people seeking asylum or refuge in Hungary was quite different. And I think the challenges with regard to the very individualistic response to these people's needs, social and psychological needs, were quite different as opposed to the needs of the people fleeing Ukraine. And of course, a number of these people is also quite different, and the response of the government was also quite different. So on the one hand, there was this very rapid series of new government decrees introduced, activating a legal mechanism that was unknown to us before. I mean, we knew that temporary protection existed and pretty much what it was, but nobody really had seen it work in practice before, not just in Hungary, but in Europe in general. And we had a large number of people coming directly to Hungary. And the state authorities were really not in a shape to meet this challenge at all because of the consistent policies of the government before. The asylum authority and the police were simply not in an adequate form and shape to respond in a humane and human rights sensitive manner to the large number of people crossing the Hungarian border. And even though nobody was turned away from the border, which is great, access to information on their rights and possibilities remains since then consistently a huge gap. So we very quickly identified that we are the only ones in the country who have the necessary knowledge, skills, and honestly the will to provide large-scale information and legal counseling for people about their rights and possibilities. So we set up a duty system in the office, which is enforced since then, meaning that on every day, one or two lawyers and other colleagues of mine are on duty answering incoming requests for information in email, through Facebook, and the telephone too, in an adequate language, not just in Hungarian or English, but in Russian and Ukrainian too. We set up a system of monitoring and active outreach. We produce information leaflets and information materials. Already on the 25th of February, by the afternoon, we had 4 information leaflets ready on the available legal system and legal possibilities for people fleeing Ukraine. We had them available in Ukrainian, Russian, Hungarian, and English. Published on our website. We're the first ones to do it, and since then we diversified and continuously update our easy to understand information leaflets. We continuously monitor the legal situation, identify the gaps, do advocacy towards the EU. We work together with UNHCR, the partners on the field, and we provide a lot of trainings for volunteers, lawyers, other organizations who help people fleeing Ukraine. Of course, we also use litigation when we have to. There's a systemic gap for those fleeing Ukraine who are neither Hungarian citizens nor Ukrainian citizens, but cannot return to their country of origin, and their access to asylum is still not guaranteed under Hungarian law. So we channel this issue into a strategic litigation program to try and seek legal remedies for them, to enable them to live in safety with respect for their human rights. And I think that hearing a lot about the struggles of refugees and people seeking asylum can be a lot, I understand that, but also people fleeing is not, it's a phenomenon that will persist as it always has through human history. And the responses that countries and societies give to this really indicates, I think, the strength of their democracies and their conviction towards human rights. And this is something that's just going to escalate through the climate catastrophe, through the war in Ukraine, through rising tensions in several parts of the world. This is something that's really not going to go away. And when Russia attacked Ukraine and a large number of people showed up at the Hungarian border, the response of Hungarian society despite the years of dedicated hate mongering by the government, was not one of hate and exclusion, but this very basic human instinct of help and outreach and support. And that really showed us that solidarity cannot be exterminated from Hungarian society or from European society, if we want to bring it to.
We'll now have our song of blessing for number 413, Go Now in Peace.
Breath and spirit are the same words in many of the languages of the world. In Hebrew, ruach can mean wind, spirit, or breath. In Greek, pneuma likewise means breath, breeze, or spirit. Breath is, in a very real way, the spirit of life, the very source of life as we know it. And the ancient texts from many of the religions around the globe point to this connection. So it's through conscious awareness with our breathing that we return to our deeper source and to the common air that we all breathe. Imagine us not breathing as separate and isolated individuals, but as this holy wind moving through one and all, connecting us to the pulse of life. So let us center ourselves together as we do each week by becoming more aware of our breathing and our communion with each other and the source of life. With each exhalation, we join in the common spirit. And with each inhalation, we claim that spirit that is unique to our lives. Breathing out, we remember our connection. And breathing in, we claim our place in the web of being. Let us find serene awareness and focus in this practice of centering together in the ruach, in the breath of life. In this place of spiritual centeredness and connection, we lift up the joys and sorrows of our community. Know that we would love to hear from you if you may be celebrating or honoring a milestone reached or hold sorrow with you in community. All that you have to do is submit any of these for inclusion on Sunday mornings to our pastoral care team by emailing pastoralcare@uusm.org. We begin our time by holding the queer people and their friends who were murdered and maimed last night in Colorado in the light of our beloved community. It is also with sorrow that we share that we learned of the news of the passing of the Reverend Dennis Daniel, who died earlier in the spring of this year. Reverend Daniel may be remembered by some of the elders in this community as he found his calling to the ministry here in this sanctuary. He was a religious education teacher, group leader, and activist here before pursuing seminary and the UU ministry. He was ordained in 1988 and went on to serve many of our congregations and the professional ministry of our larger movement. We remember Reverend Daniel and all those who knew and loved him, and we hold them also in our light of beloved community this morning. Our mindfulness prayer is a responsive litany, We Bear Witness, by Amy Brooks, in honor of the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is today, as it remembers all of the transgender people who have been killed by transphobic violence. We offer these words as our witness to the value of trans lives and in honor of the memories of so many precious lives taken from us by our broken and transphobic world. After each recitation, we will respond, We bear witness. We people gathered here today on the quest for truth and meaning bear witness. We bear to the record of human lives extinguished simply because these people dared to live authentically. To the lives and reported deaths of transgender people globally so far this year. To the lives and reported deaths of transgender people in the United States so far this year. To the unreported ones, uncounted ones, the unnamed many whose lives and deaths will only ever be known by the universe. In these times of heightened anxiety, we who are gathered here today reject the teachings of division and ignorance and commit to siding with love against hatred. Yeah. Against closed-minded ideologies that excuse evil acts in the name of religion. Against any administration or politician that seeks to fuel their rise to power by threatening the lives of transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary people. Against systemic power structures that treat transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary people, particularly those who are people of color, as being anything less than human. On this day, we who are queer folks and allies gathered together uphold the first principle that speaks to the inherent worth and dignity of every person. For those transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary people who are gathered among us today. For those who are allied to the cause of protecting our transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary siblings. For those who exist boldly, unapologetically, in public spaces as transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary people. I will now read aloud a small fraction of the names of the individuals who we know were murdered by anti-transgender violence this year. There are many more, and perhaps those who you hold in your hearts and also remember in this time and add to our honoring. Tiffany Banks, a Black trans woman, was killed in Miami, Florida on October 1st. She was 25 years old. Simaj Billingsley, a Black trans man, was killed in Jacksonville, Florida on September 21st. He was 33 years old. Regina Allen, a Black trans woman, was killed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on August 29th. She was 35 years old. Aaron Lynch, a trans man, was killed in McLean, Virginia on July 7th. He was 26 years old. Candy Reed, a Black trans woman, was killed in Kansas City, Missouri on July 24th. She was 29 years old. Cherry Bush, a trans woman, was killed in Los Angeles, California on July 5th. She was 48 years old. Sasha Mason, a transgender Latina, was killed in Zebulon, North Carolina on May 13th. She was 45 years old. Nedra, a black trans woman, was killed in Opa-locka, Florida on May 14th. She was 50 years old. Fern Feather, a trans woman, was killed in Morristown, Vermont on April 12th. She was 29 years old. Keisha Webster, a black transgender woman, was found killed in Jackson, Missouri on March 26th. She was 24 years old. Katie Newhouse, an Asian American trans woman, was killed in Georgia on March 19th. She was 19 years old. Tatiana LaBelle, a black transgender woman, was found killed in Chicago, Illinois on March 18th. She was 33 years old. Naomi Skinner, a black transgender woman, was killed in Highland Park, Missouri on February 12th. She was 25 years old. Dual Princess, a black trans woman, was killed in Jacksonville, Florida on January 3rd. She was 24 years old. These remembered deaths have not gone unnoticed by us. We bear witness. Sacred, transgender, genderqueer, and non-binary lives do not go unnoticed by us. Let us enter into our time for silent meditation, reflection, and offering the prayers of our hearts for a few brief minutes. I will ring our singing bowl to begin and end our time for silent meditation. How does one reach heaven? You'd be surprised by the number of times this question is raised by members of our liberal faith community. I've heard this question and ones like it from our members who fall everywhere on the theological and philosophical spectrums that our tradition lovingly embraces. Heaven is envisioned as a reward that follows a good life here in the minds of many. Am I doing enough good in the world to receive this eternal reward? Some wonder. Am I giving enough? Others ask. Is my devotion strong enough? Others question. Perhaps you've had similar thoughts at various points in your life. When our friends pose such questions, it's often in jest, but they also express something of the serious existential questions that we ponder in life. So often we imagine attaining transcendental realities if we just live in the right way, do the right things, follow the dictates of our conscience or the promptings of spirit. Now, I've preached before about the Islamic concept of al-akhirah, the natural paradise that awaits the faithful following this life and this tradition. It's depicted as a place of supreme serenity and beauty with flowing rivers, orchards, shaded groves, and ornate fountains, a place of eternal joy and repose, not unlike many of the concepts of the eternal world in the other religious traditions. The theologian in me has always thought that any eternal world must include something of our world if it's truly eternal, includes all time, and is beyond all time. So what if this paradise, or some aspect of it, is real and attainable in this world? What if we already have one of the keys to the pearly gates in our back pockets? What if we were to open the doors of our hearts with the key of gratitude and find ourselves dwelling in paradise? A few weeks ago, I had a powerful dream of my beloved Sheikh and heart friend Ibrahim Baba, may his memory be a blessing. It seemed he came to visit me in the season of the ancestors following a prolonged silence. In Sufi tradition, it's very important to be mindful of signs, intuitions, and dreams that come to one as they are means of accessing spiritual wisdom and guidance. This dream was not like others in that its quality possessed a reality that was unlike other dreams. Perhaps you've had special dreams like this. I was caught up in some drama in my ordinary dreamscape when a portal suddenly opened and out stepped my dear Baba, and he encouraged me to follow him. He was young and radiant, dressed in all black, which he never wore black, and I was overjoyed to see him again, since it had been quite a while since my last encounter. I followed him, and he offered me counsel that I can't recall before we reached our destination. You know how it is in dreams sometimes. To my great surprise, in my dream, he had taken me to paradise. There we relaxed on a grassy field with a blue sky overhead, and we caught up with each other. I had many mundane inquiries for him, but he told me that he brought me to this place so that I could bear witness to something of supreme importance. In an instant, and just as if the facade of reality was a curtain that could be pulled away, I was overwhelmed by a perception of love holding all things together in this world and in the beyond. The grandeur of this compassion could be felt in the spinning of galaxies and in the orbits of electrons in my dream world. I could perceive love working at every level of reality, all at once. And I could do nothing but weep before its beauty and majesty and grandeur. Slowly, I felt myself begin to return to a state of wakefulness, but I didn't want to leave this profound awareness. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced, but I was told it was time to wake up. And so I did, with tears in my eyes, a warm glow infusing my being, and suddenly everything in my life appeared absolutely miraculous. And I remembered feeling this experience of this all-encompassing universal love. Everything had a new freshness to it, and gratitude poured forth from my heart for each person, each moment, each mundane circumstance of my life. This awareness remained with me for days and returns whenever I recall this dream and the feeling of this love divine. Now, gratitude is one key by which we can be granted access to paradise in this world. It can transform our perceptions and refresh and enliven our beings when we commit ourselves to counting our blessings as a spiritual practice. It's something we can choose at any moment to bring us to greater wakefulness before the majesty of our lives and into deeper connection with the distant horizons of our beings. The actress and humanitarian Doris Day had once wisely observed, "Gratitude is riches, complaint is poverty." It's one important key to the treasuries of our lives. Without it, we're truly in the midst of a great spiritual poverty in which the depth and breadth of our awareness of our lives is greatly reduced and diminished. When we access the treasuries of our lives through gratitude, our awareness expands, and something of paradise reveals itself to us as real and present to us in this moment. We remember we belong to something far greater than ourselves and that we are intimately woven into this world of interdependence, connection, mutuality, and love. We can begin to unlock the treasury of our lives by being grateful for our bodies, all that they have done to make our journeys through life possible. Our capacities to see, feel, hear, taste, and sense the world in whatever ways that we are able are gifts like no others. Within our hearts and minds are the abilities to think and understand, to dream and create, to know and to be known. We can expand our gratitude beyond the simple blessings of our bodies to the great web of relationships that give our lives so much of their meaning, dignity, worth, and joy. Imagine attempting to measure how dear a single loved one is to you in your life. Imagine attempting to measure how dear to you a single loved one is in your life. Think of your partner, friend, parent, or another who you care for deeply, and how fully impossible it is to express your appreciation for them. Now imagine multiplying those feelings to include each person who holds a special place in your heart. It's overwhelming to contemplate being surrounded by such extraordinary blessing. What if we were to consider all of the people who made our life possible, who remain unknown to us? Or if we considered further the ancestors who made our lives possible, all those who we've never met. In whatever circumstances of life we may find ourselves, gratitude is the key to expand our mindfulness and our hearts to appreciate and cherish the spiritual riches that encompass our beings and beautify our lives. Dwelling in gratitude makes other worlds, other dimensions of existence become alive and real to us. Now, Thanxgrieving is a holiday born of the awareness that giving thanks is a revolutionary practice that can be done throughout the year. All holidays, like religions and cultures, evolve and transform over time. And Thanksgiving was born in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. It was a transformation of the traditional holiday that I first learned about when attending seminary more than a decade after its first celebration. Its honoring is something I've brought to each congregation and community I've served to expand the meaning of this time, to include the experiences of BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color and queer communities. Personally, I've never really liked the Thanksgiving holiday because I recognized early on that it was a colonial holiday that perpetuated a harmful myth about the arrival of Europeans in the Americas and the nature of their relationship with indigenous peoples. It helped perpetuate white supremacy while erasing the experiences of the indigenous genocide and the continued oppression of the people native to these lands now occupied by others. This is very much a holiday for grieving, when we remember the complete history of the founding of this nation and the traumatic legacies that continue to reverberate in the lives of so many people and tribes in this time. I carry on the tradition of Thanksgiving from my beloved Ibrahim Baba and offer it to those I serve in religious community by retelling the story of the first Thanksgiving each year. In this way, the tradition continues to evolve and transform as new years, new experiences, and new people are written into the story. I'm joined by colleagues all across the country and around the world who do the same. You're invited, if you so choose, to join in the honoring of the Thanksgiving tradition this year. I seek the blessings conveyed by the ancestors of this story and the forgiveness of the divine for any omissions or misinterpretations in this retelling. I will include as many of the actual words of Ibrahim Baba as possible. The very first Thanksgiving was in the very bleak years of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. Ibrahim Baba taught that we had to tell this story to remember the many lives taken from us, their existences often purposefully erased in the midst of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. It's an intersectional holiday that connects the struggles of the past with the realities that we inhabit. It memorializes and grieves these losses in diverse communities and calls us to honor their memories with the ways that we strive for anti-racist and counter-oppressive transformation in our world. We journey in our hearts and minds to the gatherings of BIPOC, white, and queer people in November of 1991 in Washington, D.C. In the 1980s, Ibrahim Baba was a professor at Howard University and was one of the first Black theologians that self-identified as queer, as well as an advocate for the trans community and an advocate for those living with HIV and AIDS. His best friend was Craig Gerard Joachim Harris, who he described as a HIV pioneer, pro-feminist, pro-womanist, writer extraordinaire, who was one of the first to challenge African descent communities to become educated about HIV and to be communities of inclusion. Ibrahim reminisced, Craig died days before Thanksgiving 1991. His death shifted things, and added great urgency to how we would celebrate. How in the world were we going to make it through a holiday meal that afternoon? We struggled as we prepared our beautiful organic veggies and organic turkey and made Craig's mac and cheese. We worked as though anesthetized. This was a time when we were forever getting calls about someone or other going to the hospital or almost dying or dying. Here was our dilemma. Gratitude for all that Hir-Rahman, the compassionate one, had given us. Gratitude for our mother, the earth. Sorrow for the dead and those dying. Anger at our government's inaction in the face of the HIV pandemic. Anger at how racism, classism, economic injustice, immigration policies, lack of health care, sexism, prison industrial complex, militarism, lack of housing, imperialism, erotophobia, disappearing people with disabilities, transphobia, homophobia, continued abuse of First Nations, Native American sovereignty rights, AIDS phobia, apartheids, conspired to make it okay for the most incredible people to die without anyone seeming to really care. And what about all of those forgotten? They never really were forgotten. The people who built up the Americas, indigenous people, brown people from all over the earth, poor white people. This was not just a seminar-induced dilemma. This was a real-life problem. How was it spiritually possible to hold all of these things together? Ibrahim Baba explored this dilemma with his beloved friend and fellow ACT UP activist, John Paul Hammond. We talked about this and we cried and laughed and cried and laughed. We were tempted to just cancel the dinner, but it seemed that John Paul whispered into my ear the word that held it all: Thanxgrieving. We give thanks for our many multiple blessings. We express our gratitude for all things, and we grieve land stolen from people, not being in right relationship with the earth, living in intersecting oppressions. But we were going to draw strength from the friends of the beloved, our ancestors, new and old. So we got on the phone and we called people and we told them the meal was on. It might be subdued since we were in a major mourning, with the understanding that we were just entering into a long season of mourning. But we were going to keep on moving, because there was civil disobedience to be done, actions to be held, memorial services to be performed. I'll never forget that first Thanksgiving, he continues. We acknowledge the friends of the beloved, our ancestors, and in particular our new ancestor, Craig. We ate his food and told his stories and laughed, and the phone rang nonstop. And when it was all over, we prepared to go to New York so we could perform Craig's funeral. Wow. We made music and danced, and John Paul did his wild jungle bird calls, and thus Thanksgiving was born. May our hearts and minds be infused by the power of people coming together in community in the midst of profound oppression and loss. By the memories of BIPOC, queer, trans, and other oppressed people offering resistance and often their lives in service to justice and liberation. And may we remember the ancestors, those known and unknown to us, as we journey towards a greater spiritual wholeness and collective liberation for all people. May it be so. Amen and blessed be.
Whew. It is now time for the offering. This Sunday, half of our Sunday offerings will go to the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which you heard about a little earlier. supporting grassroots human rights efforts. Gifts to this program advance community-led human rights initiatives around the world in over 20 countries. So when you give today, part of that will go to support our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC. You can donate by text, online on our website, or by check. To donate by text, I think that there's going to be a number, or there's a number in your order of service for doing that. You can also go online or write a check and send it in the mail. All that you give monetarily and all that you give of yourselves, and I know so many of you are doing both here, build our beloved community. Thank you for your generosity. I invite our ushers to come forward as we will now give and receive this morning's offering.
May you go in peace. May you hold fast to that which is good. May you return to no person evil for evil, but may you strengthen the faint of heart, support the weak, help the afflicted, honor all beings. May you go and be blessed, and may you be a blessing. Amen.